Hello and welcome to today's vasculitis research webinar. The ANCA-associated vasculitis response criteria Delphi. Today's presenters will be rheumatologist Caitlin Quinn, who is the 2017 Vasculitis Foundation and Vasculitis Clinical Research Consortium Fellow. She is the principal investigator for the AAV response criteria Delphi. She is joined by her patient research partners, Georgia and Maria. Both Georgia and Maria have been working on this project since the very beginning, and I'm pleased to describe to you why this project is important to them, why they were involved as patient partners, and why it's also important for patients just like you. Maria today is joining us from Iceland, and Georgia is joining us from Massachusetts. So we have an international presentation panel today. We're so excited to share with you this new study, and we hope that it sparks your interest and inspires you to participate in research.
So thank you so much, Dr. Quinn, for being with us today, and thank you to our patient research partners, Maria and Georgia, for presenting this new exciting project. I'll go ahead and pass it off to you, Dr. Quinn, and let you take it from here.
All right. Thank you for having us today to discuss our project on the development of response criteria in ANCA-associated vasculitis, and particularly to talk more about the patient Delphi survey, which is an important part of this larger project, and we are looking for volunteers to participate in. Response criteria is a system for determining whether a patient has improved or not improved after starting a new treatment or a new medication. And currently, no uniform response criteria exist in ANCA-associated vasculitis. And as a result, clinical trials often use various measurements to determine whether someone has active disease or is in remission, meaning no disease activity. And to evaluate if a treatment is working, response is often broken down into either active disease or remission, but the range of different levels of disease activity is often not evaluated.
Dr. Quinn, can you please explain what is meant by disease state?
Yeah, so disease state is typically another word for disease activity. And ultimately, we believe that developing response criteria that measure additional levels of disease activity, or in other words, these intermediate states in between active disease and remission, will improve the testing of treatments for vasculitis in the future.
Why is developing response criteria that measures more disease state than active and remission so important?
So as a part of this process to develop new treatment response criteria in ANCA-associated vasculitis, we are conducting a survey using a method called the Delphi Method, and I'm going to discuss more about what this is and why we are using it.
Can you talk about why the Delphi method was chosen to develop AAV response criteria instead of other methods?
Yeah, so the Delphi method allows us to obtain equal input from both patients and physicians with the goal of reaching agreement or consensus on the change in disease features that occur with treatment and are important to evaluate. And using this method, we gain the collective opinions of patients and physicians from all different parts of the world, and each participant is able to provide their own opinion without being influenced by others in the group. So a Delphi is a series of surveys to achieve consensus or agreement about what is important. And often several surveys, or what we refer to as rounds, are needed over a several-month period to reach this agreement or consensus. So we are looking for patients with granulomatosis with polyangiitis, or GPA, or microscopic polyangiitis, or MPA, to complete these surveys, as well as healthcare providers who have expertise in taking care of patients with GPA or MPA. And this schematic shows the Delphi process visually. So in a Delphi survey, the investigators or research team seek input from a pool of experts, which is both patients and healthcare providers in this case. And so the healthcare providers and patients respond, the responses go back to the investigators, and a revised set of questions is sent based on responses and feedback. And often several cycles of this occur until we have a final report that's produced based on the experts' responses.
Describe the overarching goals of this project and the challenges it will address.
Yeah, so we discussed how good response criteria will improve the testing of treatment for vasculitis in the future. And some of the challenges we currently face include that clinical trials in INCA-associated vasculitis have used different methods, and no uniform criteria exists to determine if a patient has responded or not responded to a treatment in INCA-associated vasculitis. And in order to develop new criteria, we need input from both patients and physicians. So the aims of the study will be to determine the measures, tools, or outcomes that are considered by patients and physicians to be important when assessing treatment response in INCA-associated vasculitis. And each individual will have the opportunity to rate the importance of different items when assessing response to a treatment. And this survey is actually part of a broader project to develop these new treatment response criteria that's being sponsored by the American College of Rheumatology and the European League Against Rheumatism.
Why is it important for patients to participate, and what can they expect if they do choose to participate in the study?
So in order to develop these new treatment response criteria for ANCA-associated vasculitis, we really do need input from patients. And we believe these criteria should reflect what is important for both patients and physicians when assessing response to a treatment in GPA or MPA. Data from the study will help to develop these criteria, and participation will potentially improve the testing of treatments for vasculitis in the future. If you do choose to participate, your individual responses will be anonymous, although combined data will be analyzed and reported. You may choose if you would like to have your name included as a participant in the published study if you complete all rounds of the surveys. Your name will not be linked to your responses in any way, and this is optional, and you may remain completely anonymous if you prefer. I'd like to thank the Vasculitis Foundation and VPPRN for their support of the study, and ACR and EULAR. And I would also like to acknowledge the other members of our research team who have been very involved in this project.
Thank you all so much again for presenting today. We look forward to learning more about the study. And for those who want to participate, please see the link at the end of this webinar, and you can learn more at the Vasculitis Foundation website. Thanks so much. We have a couple of questions that have come in from our patient community, and that we would like to have clarified. So if it's good with you all, we'd like to dive into our Q&A. So the first question we received is this study international?
Yes, and we're particularly interested in incorporating input from patients in all different parts of the world, including different countries and continents. So patients from all over are encouraged to participate.
That's fantastic. So the second question is, can a newly diagnosed patient participate, or do you have to have been in remission at least once?
Any patient with a diagnosis of granulomatosis with polyangiitis or GPA or microscopic polyangiitis or MPA can participate, whether you are newly diagnosed or have had vasculitis for a long time. We will collect some information during the registration piece of the survey on when you were diagnosed and some treatment data, but anyone is encouraged to participate.
Great. And do you think the study would ever be used in other forms of vasculitis like Takayasu's or Behçet's?
Yes, for this particular project, we're focusing on only GPA and MPA, but there has been discussion among our group about doing this same Delphi survey at a later time for patients with eGPA or eosinophilic granulomatosis with polyangiitis. And there are also tentative plans to do additional patient Delphi surveys in the future on other forms of vasculitis, including large vessel vasculitis, such as Takayasu's arteritis and giant cell arteritis.
Great, that's really exciting and encouraging to hear. So this question is actually to your patient research partners. How did you become involved in helping design this project? And how much time did it take to participate, and what was your experience like as a patient research partner?
So for myself, this is Georgia. I was actually invited by a former doctor of mine who is one of the principal investigators on the study, Dr. Peter Merkel. He invited me to join this project. It's a good question, the timing. I want to say maybe about a year ago or so. In terms of the timing that it takes to participate, it's about a once a month phone call, and then there's some work in between, sort of analyzing and revising materials that might come up along the way. And in terms of our role as patient research partners, I think that one of the really important parts was that our role was to ensure not only that the language within the survey was patient friendly, but also that patient voice was heard throughout the whole process from start to completion. And we also had a really important role in making sure that when patients were responding to the questions within the survey, that they fully understood each section and also each question that was asked within the survey without question or hesitation, so that they were really able to answer as accurately as possible.
Thank you so much. Maria, what was your experience like?
Yeah, to tell you I was invited to this research by Gunnar Thomasson, who is my doctor in Iceland, and it was an honor. And I have been with veganism since 1997, and the time I've been spending on this has been a lot, because I'm a little professor, so I have to go deep and everything, but it has been very interesting, and yeah, a big honor for me. So what I've been learning from this is it's good that we are testing and checking what we can do better and how we can research things. Thank you.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you both again so much for sharing your experiences, and thank you, Dr. Quinn, for presenting this exciting project. We will have information at the end of this webinar. You'll be able to see where you can participate in the study if you have a diagnosis of GPA or MPA. And again, just as a reminder, this will be there are several surveys that you will take in this series. But you'll have all that information online and will be shared at the end of this webinar. So we thank you so much for your participation today, and we hope that you will consider participating.